Hello and welcome to The Art of Being Human. We finished a whole segment on self-concept, negative self-concept, and positive self-concept in the last segment that we did. And today I would like to start something on disappointments, because I really believe that a lot of our negative thinking is based upon the fact that we're not happy with ourselves because we are disappointed in life. We're disappointed because we did not fulfill or have not fulfilled to date the expectations that we have of ourselves. And sometimes we're disappointed in other people because they have not fulfilled what we expected of them. Now, this business of expectation is an important one. When I go to a doctor, I expect to receive good care. When I go to a dentist, I expect to receive good care. Sometimes I get it. In fact, I would say 98 and 99/100% of the time I get it. And I've only once been to a doctor when I was in a diabetic crisis. My blood sugar was way too high. And she said, "I don't understand it. It's your problem. Good luck." And that was not any care at all. But for the most part, I've always received excellent care. But we can get disappointed in other people because they're not doing what we think they should do, or they're not meeting our expectations of what we think they should have. Now, you have to understand that a person's expectations are different. They're different from other people. I cannot expect you to do a certain thing. If you don't have that expectation for yourself, you're certainly not going to have it because I want you to have it. So we have to understand each other so that we know what the expectations that we have of ourselves. I expect that when I go into a class or I teach a class, either on television or behind a pulpit or behind a lectern, that I'm going to be fully prepared for that, and I always am. And I never go before any kind of a camera or any kind of a pulpit without being fully prepared for what's to happen. But what if I expect that same kind of thing by other people? Sometimes I can get disappointed because they're not doing what I think they should be doing. And so, but we have to understand what each other expectation is. Your expectations won't be the same as mine. So I should not have expectations of you if you do not have those expectations for yourself. So we kind of put on other people what we believe they should be and what we believe they should do, and sometimes they don't have that same kind of feeling about themselves. We need to understand where they're coming from, and they need to understand where we're coming from. But disappointments are important, because if we have failed to fulfill what our expectations are, we will be disappointed. If we don't accomplish in life what we think we should be accomplishing in life, we will be disappointed in ourselves. The problem is we can be disappointed in other people as well. So disappointments start early in life. How do they begin? Well, it may be, just in terms of family dynamics here, your parents may have been unavailable to you. They may not have been emotionally supportive of you like you needed. Every child needs to be emotionally supported by their parents. And if that didn't occur, your disappointments in life could have started way back then, right in your infancy and young childhood. Your parents may have been unaccepting. They may not have liked you, or you may have felt that they didn't like you. Bear in mind, it is what you think they think of you that's important, not what they actually think of you. But if a child feels that their parents are unavailable, the parents don't care for them, or if they've had alcoholic parents, parents who are abusive, parents who are using drugs, parents who have been divorced, even parents who have been deceased, you can be disappointed in a person that's passed on. People don't talk about that much, but that can be part of the grief process. You died and you left me. You did not have the right to leave me. I needed you. You didn't have the right to die. Now, truthfully, if you look at it rationally, the person didn't have anything to say about it. When their time came, and they passed on because their bodies shut down, and that's what happens. So, but we can get angry about that, and we can blame the person who is deceased for some of our problems. Or our family dynamics may have been just so poor that we did not ever have a chance to develop a positive self-esteem because the method that we normally would do it with just wasn't there. The parents were unsupportive, they were into themselves, they were divorced, they were fighting, they were arguing with each other, they were taking drugs, they were using alcohol. Various things could have happened. They may have been mentally ill. In any of these situations, a child would not have received the kind of care and nurturing that they needed in order to raise themselves up to have a good self-concept. So the disappointments can start early in life. Now, you can be disappointed in yourself. You can even be disappointed in your body. Let me just list a few things that you can, in which you become disappointed with yourself. Some of these things may have even happened to you. You may have chronic illnesses that cause you to be disappointed in yourself because you may not be able to do things that you would like to do because you just have a chronic illness and it prevents you from doing so. You could have physical problems, you could have learning disabilities, you could have problems in your past. There could be drug use or alcoholism that you yourself are involved with or your parents were involved with. Maybe you drink too much. I've heard so many people say, yeah, I drink, but it's really not a problem. Well, it is a problem. If you can't achieve what you need to achieve because you have to drink all the time, that's a problem. It's a big problem. When do I suspect a person is an alcoholic? And this is what I tell people who have seen me for counseling. When you pass that line between the fact that you want it to the fact that you need it, you may want to drink and occasionally you may have a glass of wine at dinner. That's not a big deal. But if you go to the line where you pass, it's not just a case that you want it. Now it becomes a need. I think you're already an alcoholic. Because if you need it, you're going to seek to get it. No matter what it takes to get it, you will seek to get it. Alcohol is very, very addictive. Drug use and alcoholism, then abortion. A lot of women who have had abortions, I wish abortion clinics would be more honest and tell you what it really does to a young mother or older mother when they decide to abort a baby. There are very, very long-term consequences, deep depression, deep grief, deep guilt. There are all kinds of psychological consequences as well as physical ones from an abortion, and people don't seem to get that. Oh, it's just a fetus. Oh, it's just a little thing this big. Well, that little thing this big is actually a human being. When you have an egg and it's impregnated by a sperm, you have all of the genes, everything that you need to have a human being. And how do you know that? The cell, which were two cells combined into one cell, starts to split and divide and grow immediately. And what's it growing into? The human being that it's going to become. At 19 days old, that heart is already beating. Now, it's not a completed heart, it's just tissue, because at 19 days old, that infant may only be the size of like a pinhole. It's very, very small. But you can tell if you have the equipment to do it, and medical people have, that there's already some kind of spastic pumping activity in those cells that are going to become the heart. That heart, even though it's so tiny and it's a group of cells, and excuse me, you don't have the auricles and ventricles actually formed yet, it starts to beat. There's a little spasm there. It starts to beat. You have a human being. The moment the egg and the sperm unites, you have a human being. It's not just a thing. It's an actual human being. And the people, I think, sense that. I think women know that, even though they may not be told that. And when they choose to let that baby go, because they choose to have an abortion, the mental consequences on women are just horrible. And nobody ever tells them that. They think they're just getting rid of this little creature. They think it's not even a baby yet. Some people don't believe it's a baby until so many months have passed, or until the baby is even born. They don't even think of it as being human until it's born. But of course it is human because it's got all the genes that it needs to have to be a human being. So when you decide to get rid of a baby, a fetus, and that's still within you, it is an actual human being that you're deciding to get rid of. I feel quite strongly about that. And the reason I bring it up, it's not that I'm trying to make a religious issue out of here, although it is a religious issue. But I'm bringing it up because of what it does to the human being and how they become so disappointed in themselves that they carried through this action that costs some other little being its life. It is a horrible problem, and I've counseled the women who just go through this horrible phase in their lives and try to get them to get well again. But at any rate, abortion, you might be disappointed in yourself because of your weight. Too heavy, too thin, because of your appearance, not attractive enough, because of your lack of security, or because of a bad marriage, or a loss of friends, or loneliness. Any one of these things that I've talked about can cause you to be disappointed in yourself. And if you're disappointed in yourself, how are you going to feel good about yourself? Of course you're not. And what's going to happen is that you're going to have depression, and you're going to feel that you're of less self-worth. So sometimes our needs in childhood are not met. That leads to disappointment. And unmet needs will shape our childhood. You needed love, you didn't get it. You needed assurance, you didn't get it. You needed to be told that you were worth something, you didn't get that. You need love, you need comfort, you need support, you need a sense of belonging. You are our child, we love you, you belong to us. That would help a child immeasurably to feel important because they know who they belong to. I've seen kids that don't know who they belong to. They're just, you know, they're here, they're there. One parent gets them 1 week, one parent gets them another week. Maybe they stay with an aunt for a while because no one can take care of them, and they're just shifted from place to place to place. There is no stability in that. And if there's no stability in that, no one can feel good about themselves, because what it's going to do is they're going to take those feelings in and they're going to say, I don't belong anywhere. I don't even know who I am. I don't have my own bedroom. I don't have my own place to live. I'm always going here, there, and the other place. I'm always changing schools. And then where am I supposed to be anyway? And it becomes a real big problem. So there are so many things that can happen to you, generally speaking, as a child, that cause you very great disappointments. And then after that, you don't know. You have to define yourself. Every person needs to define themselves. And I like to use the word personhood, so I'm going to just explain for a moment what that is. Your personhood is your sense of self, who you are. And if you have a good concept and a healthy self-concept, you have a sense of who you are. And I like to use the word personhood to describe that. Now we know that your personality is everything about you. Everything about you combined forms your personality. If you have a personhood, if you feel that you're a good person, that you have a sense of yourself, that also becomes a part of your positive self-concept. If you feel that you don't have a good sense of self, this can indicate that you're going to have a bad self-concept, or it can lead to a bad self-concept. So if you are disappointed in things in your life, nothing worked out, you didn't have a good upbringing, your personhood is injured. You don't have a good sense of self. And part of your healing will come if you have a good sense of self, if you get healed from that, and you look at yourself as a unique human being of worth. If you look at yourself as a unique human being with worth, and it doesn't matter if you have a learning disability, or if you have a chronic illness, or if you have one leg shorter than the other, or if you have some kind of a mental problem because your brain isn't working quite right, your hormones aren't working quite right, it doesn't matter. If you have a good sense of self, I am me, and I am important, and I have value because I am me, that'll help you to have a good self-concept right there. And every person has a right to this. Every child has a right to this. You have the right to feel important. You have a right to feel loved. You have a right to feel a part of something that's important, that you're a part of a family that loves you, that cares for you, that will go the extra mile to help you. You have the right to that. Now, I saw an interesting thing on television the other day, and it was two conjoined twins. They're joined at the head. And they cannot be separated. Because of the way that the brain has developed, they cannot be separated or they will die. They have to be together. For the rest of their lives, they're going to be conjoined. So as they stand up and as they walk, their heads are twisted because they're attached to the other person's head. This is a couple of identical twin girls. Of course, conjoined twins are always identical. You wouldn't get a fraternal twin that would be conjoined, because fraternal twins come from two different eggs and fertilized by two different sperm. So when you have an identical twin, which will be the same sex, of course, it comes from one baby, in a sense, one fetus, but it doesn't split all the way. The place where it doesn't split is the place where it's attached. And with these two girls, they're attached and they share that brain to the point where somebody can eat something, the other person can taste it, even though they didn't eat it, because the way that the brain works, they're sharing so much of the brain between each other. Now, they were asked, the mother was asked, is she disappointed, and does she wish that they could be separated? And she was asked about that, and I thought it was really nice what she said. She says, no, I would not want them separated because they are perfect just the way they are. They are exactly as they are supposed to be. And it's interesting to see them because they can think independently, but they also think together. So if one person wants to do one thing and the other person wants to do the other, they kind of think about it and then come to the same decision and do whatever it is, because they have to be together. And the mother's okay with that, and the family is okay with that. And they're going to be going to school pretty soon as kindergartners, and they've made it through and emotionally seem to be healthy. So I have to really commend the mother, who has not fallen apart because of this situation, and she's all right with it, and the kids are all right with it too. They also showed pictures of a conjoined twins that was separated a few years back, and how they are doing as individuals. Well, one of them's doing fine, the other one got meningitis, and so she can't walk and she can't talk, but it has nothing to do with the separation. It had to do with catching meningitis, spinal meningitis, which can do terrible things to a body, and they're doing fine too. So anyway, to accept where you are and to accept your value as a human being, even if you have a learning disability or something that's preventing you from doing what your wildest dreams are. Sometimes mental health is knowing what you can do and what you can't do, and finding something within those parameters that you can do, that you like to do, and that can form the basis of a healthy self-concept. Well, you have two types of disappointments. You have simple and complex disappointments. A simple disappointment is just like a single event. You wanted to go out to dinner with a friend and you can't because plans changed and you're disappointed. You wanted to go to a certain movie and you can't because your car wouldn't start or whatever it is. These are just simple disappointments and you work through them. A complex disappointment are various things that happen. They may be similar and one piles up on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other, and it can become quite complicated, and it's like major disappointments over major issues. But I think all of these things can be worked out if you want to work them out, and then you can be happy, and you can really achieve what you need to achieve. It's like with disappointments that you have a cycle. You have wishes, you have dreams, you have expectations. and it doesn't come to pass for some reason. And as a result of that, you develop bitterness, you develop hostility, you develop depression, and that continues to circle and feed upon itself. And what you really need to do is not allow it to feed upon itself. Now, some people, when they get disappointed, they will try harder to reach a goal, and that's one of the adjustment mechanisms that I talked about weeks ago. Or they can pretend that their needs are being met even though they're not. Or they can shut down emotionally and become isolated and become bitter, which is absolutely the wrong thing to do. You need to find what you can do and work with that, because bitterness will make you hostile to others, it'll make you resentful, it can make you depressed. Now, there are stages of disappointment, and I think, though, we're not really going to have not enough time to work through it, but the stages that you go through in disappointment are very much like the stages of grief that you go through when you've lost something or when you've lost a person. Because remember, disappointment comes from loss anyway. It's a loss of yourself. It's a loss of what you wanted to do because you couldn't do it. So you have to stop thinking about what you can do and turn it around, and you can do that. But you will go through stages of grief if you're disappointed. And these grief can be pretty powerful. And it's like the same stages of grief that you go through after a loss of a loved one, and the same stages of grief that you go through if you yourself have been diagnosed with a terminal illness and you know that your life is going to be terminated at some point due to this illness. You go through that same stage of grief as you do if you've lost a friend, and the same stages of grief as you do when you're disappointed in things. So what I'm going to do is finish this next time, and we'll be talking about that type of grief that you go through with disappointment and how you can kind of turn this around and feel better about everything. So we'll stop it here. We'll continue next time. Please join me then.